It's another edition of Behind the Mic with AudioFile magazine. I'm Joe Reed. Emily Connelly is with me. And Emily, what are we talking about today?
We're talking about another wonderful fantasy audiobook. Today it is Sorcery and Small Magics, and it's written by Maiga Doocy, and it's read by Ciaran Saward. And it is another wonderful fantasy audiobook, but a little bit different from ones we've talked about already this week.
So where is this set?
This one is set in a totally different fantasy world. There's plenty of magic there. And interestingly, there are people who are born with the power to cast magic. There are also people who have the power to write spells. So when people are casting their spells, they need to have a paper with that spell written on it by a caster.
I see. And the twain shall not meet.
Right. Often you're not usually someone who could do both. You're one or the other. And so this is about two different characters. Leo Vander Lovage, who's a scriver, someone who writes spells, and he's a bit of a rake from a very well-off family, and
Of
he's
course.
not doing so well at the school, the Fount, where he's attending, the School of Magic. And then we have someone who is one of his rivals, let's say, not quite an enemy, but a rival who he's butted heads with a lot. Sebastian Grimm, who's from a farming family. He's very much a rule follower, doesn't really put up with Leo's nonsense. So we, first of all, have these two very different personalities that Ciaran gets to narrate, but then we get to hear these two different personalities come to life through Ciaran's voice. It's all told through Leo's point of view. These two are partnered up for a class where they're learning about casting spells and writing spells. Definitely recommend this audiobook. And I think Ciaran was a new narrator for me. I'm not sure how much he's narrated before, but I had a lot of fun listening to him. And we could listen to a little bit of the sample from the very beginning of the book.
Yeah, let's.
These two characters, Leo and Grimm, are having to work together to break into their school because they're both there after hours.
Okay, we're going to listen to an excerpt of Sorcery and Small Magics. It's by Maiga Doocy, read by Ciaran Saward.
When it was done, I blew the ink dry and handed the spell to Grimm. "Your penmanship is awful," was the first thing he said. There was plenty of light from the street for him to read by, so I thought the show he made of squinting and frowning down at the paper was a bit much. "This is incorrect." "It's not," I said. "I just couldn't remember the words to the Lightfoot spell, so I wrote my own. It should work the same, mostly." Grimm stared at me. "Surely you've memorized something as basic as that by now." I shrugged. "Didn't stick." Grimm looked horrified by this admission. He took ages reading over the spell again, probably searching it for traps. This was insulting, but perhaps not entirely unwarranted. Grimm and I had been collecting grievances against each other since first tier, like honey catches flies. I'd once tricked him into casting a charm that turned his pale hair a delightful shade of pink. I'd thought it rather fetching, but he vehemently disagreed.
Okay, first of all, that's a chuckle at the end. Second of all, I think he has such a sexy voice, a really, really sexy voice. And in fact, he narrates a lot of kids' books.
Oh, interesting.
I know, with that amazing, sexy voice. And I love the tone he has for each character. It's a different tone. It's subtle. It's really, really good, I think.
Yeah, not drastically different voices, but just enough for you to know who's talking. And you're right, it is more of a tone, a little bit of maybe an accent shift, but you get the real feeling of who each of these characters are through hearing the voice.
And book one, it definitely ends on a cliffhanger, so you'll be waiting for book two. That is Sorcery and Small Magics. It's by Maiga Doocy, read by Ciaran Saward. Thank you so much, Emily.
Oh, thank you, Joe.
This is Behind the Mic with AudioFile magazine. I'm Joe Reed.